Okay, so I built the joiner's bench, but it's a little bit different than Rex's plans because I was working with only free lumber that I had left over from a construction project. So let me tell you about it. So I'm going to attempt this build with all free lumber that was left over from the shop build. Most of it's in pretty good condition. Some of the 4x4s, they're not the best, but we're gonna try to do this as low cost as possible. So I do the initial part of the cut with the miter saw. And I'll finish off with this. Never buy a small miter saw. Just buy big to begin with, and then you can cut 4x4s. There you go. One down, 3 to go. Okay, day one's done. Got both of these finished. Boy, half lap joints, not a fan of them things. But they're done. Tomorrow, start working on the apron. Okay, I added a little bit of wood burning to it. I just like the wood burn look. Probably not for everybody, but since it's my workbench, I freaking burned it. Now, I do plan to put some kind of maybe clear stain, polyurethane, not sure yet. I haven't decided which way I'm going on it, but since this is probably going to be the last workbench I ever have in my entire life, I figure why not do everything I want to do. Okay, it's the same thing for this side. 18 centimeters in and 6 centimeters down and 6 centimeters up. So I figure if I put these two in the exact same measured spots as the other board and centered on this, then technically everything should be square when I finish. So we'll see. These are what I'm using, M10 140s, which is basically just about the thickness of the board and the 4x4. But once I do the countersink hole, that should give it enough stick out on the other end. So with the M10s, I'm using a 25 millimeter countersink. I'm not sure what this thing's called anyway. Whatever this is, that's what I'm using. And I'm just basically going up to the lip of it. So that should give enough clearance for it without going too deep. Just a tad more on that. All right, there we go. Okay, I had a little bit of a lineup issue. The legs were kicked out a little bit on this side. So I actually had to rig up some of these Chinese clamps to kind of pull it in so I could get them to line up in the center of the 4x4s. Once I got that side in, I used the clamps to pull it in square. They don't sell pipe clamps over here. I looked for a long time. I just can't find any. So that's what I'm reduced to. And of course, I didn't have any of the tie-down straps. I could have probably tie-down straps would have been perfect. I could have cranked them up real easy, but that was my MacGyver solution. Okay, I've decided that before I flip everything over, I'm going to pre-drill for some casters on here. It'll be a variation from the original design. But my plan is, let's see if we can, to have casters, fold up, fold down casters here and here. That way it doesn't increase the footprint. And since they'll hardly ever be used, it won't be a stability issue with them both being pointed in, but I think they'll still be spread far enough to provide ample support. So that's the plan now before I flip it over and put the other apron on. And I did a separate video on these casters. These are the exact same ones that I got off of Amazon. I did a video and I'll link that up here in the corner of the video. Okay, both aprons are on. All four casters are on. So now it's time to start prepping the aprons for these cross supports. I think that's tomorrow's project. It's a lot sturdier than I thought. And it sits completely solid on the floor. So, happy with it so far. Hopefully I can make the rest of it come together. Okay, I forgot to press the record button on the camera, so it missed me cutting the key slots. So I've got both of them cut. That first one came out a little crooked, but this one came out pretty good. I went ahead and scrubbed the center board, and I also marked it for the cutout. I'm not going to leave it proud. That may be a mistake, but I've got extra of this wood if I screw up. So the plan is to use a jigsaw to make these cuts. No more hand saws if I can avoid it. So I just kind of mark that out, and hopefully she'll sit in there. Okay, it's time to see how good this is going to come together. I'm going to put the adhesive on first and then pound it in. I'm going to try and keep it from oozing out the front, just for aesthetic purposes. I did pre-drill 2 holes for the screws that are going to go in once this drops into place, hopefully, without too much issue. Well, it's not perfect, but I think we're within the margin of error there. I wish that would have sat a little flatter. I guess my board measurement, but I think it'll still look good from a distance. Don't look too close at it. Okay, to cut the grooves for the 4x4s, I'm using a circular saw. Make a couple rip cuts and then knocking it out with the hammer. Seems to be much more precise than my hand saw. Okay, time to put the 4x4s in. I think they got a pretty decent fit. So I'll get the construction adhesive. Rinse and repeat for the other side. Okay, I think I got most everything level on the top now. I have a newfound respect for these planes because there was a couple high spots, I mean really large high spots, and that plane made quick work of it. So now what I'm going to do is put the 2x4 for supports under here. I wasn't confident enough in my ability to put those on and then not have it interfere with this. So I'm going to cut the 2x4s. That way just wedge them right up against the bottom of these things there. Okay, I've got all of the little support pieces that go under here pre-cut and pre-drilled. So we're going to be ready to glue these up. I did verify that the screw lengths will not push all the way out the front, so double check that. And I wasted one cut because the boards were a little bit wider at the bottom, so it's best to measure as close to where you're going to mount them. I mean, that might be common sense for experienced woodworkers, but I measured from the top here, and first piece was like all loose, so I had to recut it. And rinse and repeat for the other three. Okay, I got the front supports in. That one went in with no problem. However, this one, I didn't cut the half flap exactly correct, so I ended up having to shave a little bit off so this thing would sit flush up against the 2x4. There was a gap, but a little bit of the Japanese saw, and that took care of that. So I guess now it's time to start working on the deck boards. Now, I did not have free 2x10s, and let's see, what's the dimension of this? I think it's a 2x6, or I don't know. The metric is really throwing me over here. So what is that, about almost 6 3/4? That's what I'm going to be using for the deck boards. Metric measurement is 17. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I got to try and figure out which one's the best, which ones are the flattest, lay them out, and start working on that. Okay, it's time to lay in the first board. I've kind of got them sequenced out. Best ones in the front. Now, some of them have damage because this is all free stuff, construction leftovers, but just going to roll with it. So what I'm going to do now is drill and countersink the first board. Alright, I didn't countersink those, but I'm just using that to hold in place until I get everything else drilled and countersunk, so I can be sure that it's in the right spots. And I need to adjust this. Okay, that's just a matter of doing the next one. And I'm thinking about putting in a center thing. So I'm gonna put the second board in. Then I'm going to try and cut and see if I can make this thing work in the design. And then if it doesn't, then I'll just skip it and put the other two boards in, and after I rip the last one down. But we'll see. So I'm going to put this board in and then see if I can figure something out for this. Plane down a flat edge-ish on that. Then mark the location of all these. And coming up 2.5 centimeters. Hopefully that'll give me just a little lip, then I can plane down flat. And then when I want to raise it up, I just put it up on top, in theory. So we'll see. Yeah, I forgot a little step. So, not too late though, luckily. These 4 pieces, they got to go up here against the legs. So, yeah, don't forget that step. Okay, I got the little pieces up under there. The ones I forgot to put in next to the legs. And I actually found a way, I think, to make that piece work back there, since these two boards are very straight. So it's not in the center, but I'm going to try it out there for now. Okay, I got the first coat of the linseed oil on. I'll let that dry for a day or two. I think it came out pretty good. I'll probably put some paste wax on, maybe not the top, but on the sides. We'll see. Okay, the general concepts are the same. As far as the supports, the aprons, the way the braces are done, even though I did build them both the same, so it ended up coming out a little bit wrong. But it's still just as solid. So let me talk the wood and dimensions, that way you can kind of see what's different. Okay, the overall width came out to 152, and imperial right about 5 feet. And the depth just about 70, and 27.5 inches depth. Now I did add a crochet. It's a little bit different than Rex's, a little bit wider, but I basically made it out of 2 pieces of this lumber here. So a little over 1.5. Actually, about 1 3/4, or a little over 4 millimeters. I just glued 2 of those together and then cut it out. Actually, I cut them out on the bandsaw first individually, and then I glued them together and then bolted them in. Now the diameter, or now the measurements for the crochet, about 7 millimeters out, 6 millimeters that way, and an overall of just about 30 millimeters. Imperial measurements, about 2.5 by 2.5 before the curve started, by about 12 inches, almost a foot long. Now, to the outside edge, solid 4 inches. Outside edge, 10 millimeters. So if you were going to get a block of wood for this, metric 10 millimeters by 30 millimeters, 4 inches by about a foot. And that'll give you the box in which to draw your little circles on there and get the angle. So my angle works real good. I did find that I will need a closer peg for some of the shorter stock, actually inside where the crochet is, since I don't often work on longer boards, but these are here just in case. I did put these here for pegs in the front. Don't have traditional, or couldn't get them cheaply enough, the traditional hold fast. So I've got these, which will work well enough. Same principle as the hold fast, just with a clamp type thing. And I did add 3 of these stops. Just pound them up, and that acts as a planing stop. Or I can pound up a couple and then use that to use a brace block, and then put my stock material here to plane. Also, before I installed those, I made this, and that turned out to be a really effective way of holding material and then planing this way. So I am happy I made that little change to it. And it just gets out of the way when I don't need it. I did reinforce this section where I put these dogs with extra material. So I just glued it into place so they would have something solid and it wouldn't tear up the top layer of table. Well, that pretty much wraps up the video. Sorry it was a little bit long, but I'm not a pro DIY content creator. Really happy with it. I did deviate a little bit from the plans, but I highly encourage anybody to download his free plans, and even if you stick exactly to them, I think you'll be more than happy with what the result is. So thanks for watching. Let's catch you on the next one.